Ask me about that. Harrow.
Harrow. Okay, it is Friday. It's 12:30ish. I'm joined by Mr. Jerry Lyons, which can mean only one thing. It is time for the Something for the Weekend podcast. And this time, for all you hat lovers at home, it's the hat edition, isn't it?
It is. It's the hat special.
Mr. Jerry Lyons, you've been a busy boy. A busy boy.
You know what? I have been busy this week. This week has been a very busy week. Yeah.
Because I think this week is the first proper work week back. Do you think when people are sort of clearing out the cobwebs of all that Xmas sort of excess?
I cleared out the cobwebs on January the 2nd. Came into the office for 3 hours and hit the ground running on the 3rd. Do you know what I mean?
Smashed it out of the park.
Yeah. Well,
Smashed all your goals for 2023 within the first hour.
2023 completed it, mate. Completed. Done.
Mr. Jerry Lyons, you have been doing some fantastic stuff out there this week, and I think I've been sent in a question by an agent, which I can either ask you now or at the end of the show. It's up to you.
Ask away.
I'll ask away. Okay. So said agent said, could you, without mentioning my name, ask Jerry the following? They had a team meeting and they were talking about messaging in terms of the message that your PR that you're putting out there and all the sort of content that you're putting out there about the tone of it. So we're trying to encourage people to have their own personal brand, aren't we? Where they have their own personality. So, you know, it's Jerry Lyons at David's estate agent, but Jerry has very much his own rounded personality, tone of voice, etc. Do we as business owners embrace that? Do we encourage it? Or in actual fact, is it a PR nightmare waiting to happen? Because David's tone of voice is going to be very different to the business's tone of voice. And does that send a conflicting message to people?
It's a great question, and it's multi-layered as well, because let's imagine with the personal brands within an agency, if you're the agency, you're a solopreneur or a solo agent, you're the agency, you're the brand, that's really fine. You dictate how you want to sound, obviously. But if it's one of your team, so let's say 3 of your team have got their own personal brand sitting under your umbrella, that's risky, in my opinion. That's risky because, from a business point of view, what if one of them is a star player, gets all the attention, and their attention is not so much on your agency, but on them,
yeah,
and then go somewhere else?
That's that's a fact of life. If you have a star player, and particularly if they're prominent on social media, they're likely to have a bit of an ego as well. And so therefore, when they're not in the room, the rest of you in an office tend to sort of go, oh, you know, who does he think he is, that David Mintz? He's always in front of the camera. You know, that sort of thing. But it can lead to, within teams, it can lead to resentment if you've got one voice that is louder than others, or somebody that is sort of more rock starish than everybody else. And that can upset the dynamic as well. So it's a really sort of fine balance, isn't it?
What's interesting, though, is I like the idea of, let's say if you had 2 people in your agency you were going to put forward as your video content people, who's going to speak in front of the camera a lot. Let's say 3. Always have the boss. In my opinion, you should always have the boss as one of those 3, One of them can be the extrovert, can be the one who's a bit more flippant, can be the one who's a bit more expansive with their language and a bit more fun. And I was going to say zany, but it sounds like I'm describing Timothy Mallet or whatever his name is, right? The second one, the other one, which in an ideal world, this is an ideal situation, is more measured, factual, direct, not all big, huge, cheesy smiles. But the reason why I say they're 3 different voices, as it were, the boss should always be the most authoritative one, So the boss has to get in front of the camera. If the boss ain't get in front of the camera, there's an issue, Or the manager, the boss, however, whoever's the senior person. That other person who's the more outlandish, not outlandish one, but lively, fun, he's going to appeal, or she's going to appeal to a certain personality type. The one who's a bit more understated, more direct, perhaps, is going to, again, appeal to another communication type of person. Do you see what I mean? So if you can,
I see what you're saying.
If you can have that mix, that's a perfect scenario. I do worry, though, about rock star type agents within an agency umbrella. If I was the boss, I'd be like, I'm not going to let him get too big or her get too big.
Because that's the reality of it, you know. Unless you're gonna closely media manage that person, and let's face it, there is a cutoff point, isn't there? So if you turn around to me as the employee of your business and said, David, I'd like you to promote our business this week at least 3 times on your LinkedIn, I could say yes, you know, I'll do it. But some people are precious about their own personal. I'm not. I'll promote everything, even other people's businesses. To hell with it. If I can help, let's do it.
That's what I love about integrity. Integrity is right.
Yeah, you know what? Life is one big rolling buffet. Let everybody eat from it, as far as I'm concerned. But no, sometimes though, people are very precious over their own personal social media profiles, so they just want to keep that for them rather than having to sort of say, hello, it's David from Jerry Lyons estate agent every time they open their mouth. So it is an interesting sort of, I think there's a friction there. And I think you're right. I think it would keep some business owners up at night. And I think that's the real sort of challenge over the course of the next sort of 3 or 4 years, as our industry moves more in the direction of trying to support and encourage almost personal brand to emerge. It's how do we then as businesses consolidate that into our model? Are we comfortable with it? What are we telling our staff actually in our teams when they're on social media? Do they have to follow a strict protocol?
I'd avoid the word protocol, but I think it's very important to have a tone of voice document. And that can just be 1 page, by the way. That doesn't have to be War and Peace or some sort of Russian, you know, with those Russians used to write really long books. I can't think of the names.
Nabokov?
Nabokov, yeah.
War and Peace by
one of my favorites.
Chekhov, yeah.
Chekhov and check out, baby. What was I saying? Yeah, tone of voice document. That's with that question. Just to go back to the watcher's question, I'd create a tone of voice document if I was them and say, here's 10 things, 7 things. Just have a number at the set things. 5 things we try and say, 5 things we'll never say, and it's the way you say it. So you could say, number 1, we should always try and be positive. Number 2, never criticize the opposition. Number 3, start with a smile. Unless, number 4, is if you're delivering serious news, look serious. You know, that's it. Look serious. Take the hat off like that. Yeah. This is why I got the hat on. My hair's just growing too quick. So yeah, tone of voice document. I would recommend them. Just Google it. You get some ideas from their tone of voice document and train your team. I
really like that. And in many ways, the don'ts are more important than the do's. So. Yeah. You know, the do's we can all do well. So smile, be polite, you know, choose content that is appropriate for your audience, etc. But the don'ts, we don't say anything about our competition, or we don't slag off our competition. We don't refer negatively to X, Y, and Z. We will never try and sell something in an information post. You know, all of those sort of things
like the don'ts.
I'm gonna just Hebrewize it a bit. I think it should become your new PR and content 10 commandments. These are your do's and your don'ts. That's it. Non-negotiable.
Don't talk about politics unless you're in a really, and I thought this sometimes. I don't know why some agents don't do it. If you're in a real Labour stronghold that's never been Tory for 100 years, it's fine to bash the Tories most of the time. If you know your demographic, and likewise, if you're in a strong Conservative area, like a lot of people say, avoid politics like the plague. If you're in a mixed area, avoid it like the plague.
You know what? This is probably one free tip that everybody can have. when it comes to election time, and eventually we will have a general election, but even if it's just a by-election, and the press and the local press particularly are sort of talking about, getting out there and voting, and they're talking about the politics of it. There'll be local hustings and stuff. As an agent, you should just be seen to be encouraging people to vote.
Yes.
It doesn't, not for any particular side, but just if you care about this area, if you care about you could even go on a country level. If you care about your country, you care about politics. I know you don't like that. It's a little bit too jingoistic, but if you do care passionately about a local area, a local by-election has got to be something that a local agent should just say, look, your local voting centres are St Margaret's School down the road, that church over there.
Yeah, direct
them to wherever it is and tell them that on Tuesday the polling booths are going to be open from 7 till 7. Get down there.
Just in that case, just be super neutral. I'll give you an idea of the lengths we had to go to look neutral in local newspapers when we were covering elections. We would do like the candidates. We would have to have the exact same word count for each candidate, from Labour, Tory, Lib Dem. The other ones, the fringe candidates, here's John. He's in the local independence party. He's
the monster raving mad loony party or whatever.
They were the best. More of those. We need their policies now would stand a test of time against these other clowns.
Okay, I'm going to move us on to the second question that they asked. You're going to like the second question, and Chris Watkin, if he's out there listening, admiring us, or even just wishing he could have a podcast with Jerry Lyons at 12:30 on Friday.
I spoke to him on Tuesday.
Yeah, he likes that. Anyhow, so I'm willy waving or bragging. So basically, the idea is that you will see agents boasting about their performance on Facebook. You'll see them posting about their performance on LinkedIn. So the question that's been posed by the agent is it ever appropriate to boast about your performance, not your business's performance? So for argument's sake, I achieved.
The wording's wrong there.
Sorry?
Boast. I think the problem there. Sorry, give me the example. I think there's a real fundamental.
So the example could be, it could be as simple as we're the number one agent in this area. We sold more houses than anybody else, or it could be as a little bit more complex than that. On average, we achieve 110% of all the asking prices, and our selling times are 2 weeks shorter than everybody else. So you can pick. We've got fantastic data these days, so you can pick whatever data you want that supports the message that you're sending out. But they were going to do, this particular agent were going to do it on Facebook, not on Facebook, on LinkedIn, which they perceived to be a bit more of a professional environment, and they wondered if it was a little bit uncouth, a little bit cheap to sort of boast about particular statistics on LinkedIn. Now, the bit that's controversial is, before you give your opinion, I'm going to tell you mine.
Yeah.
And mine is, I want to be the person that says, no one's interested in seeing your pie chart or how good you are or all this sort of stuff. But as a member of the public, basic marketing messages, i.e. Jerry sells more houses than anyone else in his postcode, to me backs up Jerry's service. And so, you've got to respect that. So over to you, Mr. Jerry.
First of all, they make the mistake because they're using the word boast. Yeah, they should say highlight. Big difference. If you boast about something or you highlight strength, yeah. I think there's nothing wrong whatsoever on any platform at all, to say you're the number one if you are the number one. One of our leading lines as a business is we are the number one estate agent content creator in the UK, as ranked by Google reviews. Yeah, because we've got more than anyone else. In fact, somebody else can come along and then they become number one. I'd have no problem with them taking that title off us. So why can't you say you're the number one agent in North Manchester for selling bungalows or selling apartments or selling homes in general, like niche down into it? No problem at all. It's this whole thing about, you know, when somebody says, oh, they're just virtue signaling. Normally, it's people that are dickheads that say that, quite frankly, because they've got no virtues. It's because they've got no virtues to signal, basically. It's not virtue. Is it virtue signaling or is it value sharing? That's my question for you, David Mintz.
I think virtue signaling to me smacks of being very opportunistic with your value sharing. So if you value share all year round and say our values are, we don't support any kind of racism, we support local charities, we believe in everybody's right to choose this, that, and the other, we believe in a fairer, then that's fine. But if you choose to jump on it only when the newspapers are talking about it, then that to me is opportunistic virtue signaling.
I'd agree. Actually, you're far more nuanced and intelligent man than me. I'm going to go with that because I think you're right. I think value sharing is totally different from virtue signaling. Value sharing is what you do, is who you are, is how your agencies perform, and this is why actually, you know, remember in lockdown when all the corporates froze and didn't know what to do for their community, the smaller independents knew exactly what to do. That's because they do it all the time. They went out there and they cared and they did prescription drops and collection points and checked in on people. They just done it because it was natural. Their values, they were sharing their values. Then what follows, a great example of what you're saying, is some of the other bigger agencies got on board. Not all of them before they go, I work for a big agency. Good, well done. But some of them just thought, we better do something, and we better do something, and then we better tell people about it. That to me is virtue signaling.
Yeah, I think that's opportunistic, and I think it feels very shallow, and I don't think people respond well to that sort of messaging. Mr. Christian Byfield, what a lovely human being. He's just a lovely, cuddly Viking man. Has written in to say, no one else will shout about your successes, so you absolutely should, but it's the tone. He's written time, but he means tone. It's the tone that matters and how often you do it. So I take it he means you shouldn't do it too often, because then it seems very braggy and shoving it down people's throats. But you should alternate.
That's with all marketing. It's a marketing mix. If you only talk about being number one in your area, that becomes boring. But if you could even say, right, we're number ones, so once a week we'll put out a post somewhere just highlighting the fact that we're number one in some way. You should have at least 10, 12, 15 bits of little content flying out every week, really. Yeah. So that number one bit is just one part of that marketing mix. Because it's something to, and you know what it is? It shows people, well, they must be doing something right. It's a bit of social proof in that sort of pie sharing.
It is. And I would even go so far as to say that, you know, I mean, Chris Watkin will always talk about the pie chart and the fact that people shouldn't use it. I think there's only one agent that he's given official permission to use it, and that's Michelle Gallagher down in Lancaster or whatever. But her pie chart, it just looks like a Michelle pie that somebody else has put a very thin slice into. So because she absolutely dominates her local market, or they absolutely dominate their local market. And I think that it in that case, yeah, I would, if I had that pie chart, I'd have it printed on my forehead so everybody knew who I was and what I did. Because that is so, it's not just social proof, that's actual proof.
And they've got the double whammy of that awards win. You know, that's a hell of an achievement. Whether you love awards or not, that's still a hell of an achievement. So
it is, and I think all these different things sort of add to that marketing momentum for an agent, because they're not going to be able to have that forever. It's just not conceivable that it will go on forever. But if you have a nice sort of 2 or 3 year golden run in terms of how the public perceive you, yeah, you know what?
Where the marketing comes into the pie is, and I always say this, people are not interested so much in the pie, they're interested in the why behind the pie. Why is it you've got so much of the market? Well, it's because we do a lot for our community and we value accurately, and our staff are really highly trained, and we've got an office where you can come and sit. You know, it's all these bits that all these whys make up the pie. I just like saying why and pie, basically.
You do like saying why and pie. Okay, before Jerry gives us any more pie tips, we're going to move on to his general tips. And
Oh, daily
That
idea.
brings me to the next subject, Jerry's daily idea.
It's got a theme tune.
This is quite interesting. And you've shared with me today a couple of different slides. We've got the local promise and the area promise. So I know you wanted to share with us some sort of 7 things that agents can do.
Yeah.
This is just just a sort of a very helpful tick list that you can use. Talk us through them, please, Jerry.
Right, okay. So the daily ideas, basically, throughout 2021 and 2022, I shared a daily idea within our members-only Facebook group. So paying members of the Content Club have seen all this before. And then I thought to myself, you know what? Let's set ourselves the challenge that we can get a daily idea out in some of the Facebook groups every day for 365. So we've started already. We're up to, what's it today, 13. So we've got all the content there. So if you don't see a daily idea, it's because I've forgotten. But first daily idea is the local promise. And it's something that we did, I think, 2 years ago. First time I ever saw it was a charity did it 4, 5, 6 years ago, maybe even longer. And that local promise there, nice, simple way. By the way, that text is copywritten, but that's not to say somebody can't create their own, same but different, or just join the club. And that's worked really well. Did I send you the tick box as well, David? Because that's daily idea number 1. We're going to share 7 ideas.
Here's the
turn the local promise into a tick box, and one of our, I think several of our members printed these off and handed them out around town and that sort of stuff, or the villages.
So it's about encouraging local residents, your prospective customers, your audience, your community to actually uphold some of the values that you think are important. And you've created this area promise. So for argument's sake, if your area was Whitegate, you'd say, let's support Whitegate by making this promise.
And then you would subtly brand your agency on the flyer. And remember, make it double-sided. That's the simple, like you see there. It's worked well. People have done it and worked well. But that's not to stop other agents using it and doing it.
That's awesome. I think that would be very, very effective.
So that's one. Do you want number 3, David? Because we're going to do 7, aren't we? Very quickly.
I'd love number 3. I came here for all 7. If I leave without them, I'm going to feel shortchanged, and that's not how I want to go into a weekend, man. That's not the vibe.
Daily idea. You might do this because you guys are a good agency. Is the pre-valuation pack?
Yeah.
So not just before, and this is a few of the members spoke about this. They have a nice pack put together in a nice, almost like presentation style box. I did have one actually, but it's not. I don't know where it is. And it's got, information about your company and what you do and guides and these sort of stuff behind me and that sort of stuff. But the key point of it was to always deliver it the day before the valuation and try to do it in a way where you knock on the door. Oh, hi, Mr. Jones. I'm John. I'm going to be coming around to see you tomorrow. Here's a pre-valuation pack. See you tomorrow. I can't wait to see you. Bosh. The guy who first told me about this said he'd seen his conversion rate just skyrocket. But he does have a secret weapon within that pack, which I can't talk about because that is membership only stuff. But he said it's the act of a pre-valuation pack. So anyone watching think, what can I put in a pre-valuation pack that I know I can get round there, knock on Mrs. Biggins' door and go, here you go, there you go, see you tomorrow. Take care. I don't know what I'm talking about.
It's great, and I think if you can do that in person, you take the time to do it, it shows that you care. The people do feel like you've gone out of your way to prepare something that's bespoke for them. Yeah. I wonder if you rock up at a valuation sort of 3 or 4 minutes late with your pack under your arm, you run in, rattle off the same pitch you always do. I think that always comes across as a little bit kind of, oh, this is a jaded estate agent that's just going through the motions.
I've had that lots of time. People turning up there sweating or flustered or looking at their watch because they're thinking, I can't spend too long here because I've got to be somewhere else. Yeah. Pre-valuation.
I'm sorry, but on behalf of sweaty estate agents everywhere, sometimes you just can't help it.
You want to know what number 4 is?
Jerry, if you didn't give me number 4, I'd feel like I came away from this bargain on the wrong end of it. So please
Right.
give me number 4.
David, and this is something that's inspired by the wonderful Stephen Brown, right? You've lost the instruction. What do? You don't put a curse on the seller, do you? You don't say, "Oh, I hope you suffer a fate worse than."
No, God, not openly, no.
What you do is you send them a handwritten thank you card, David, to say, "Hi, Mrs. Miggins. Even though I dropped that pre-valuation pack round to you, old boot, you still didn't instruct me. But you know what? I don't hold it against you. Good luck with your sale, blah, blah, blah." Now, one of our members does that all the time, and he says it works an absolute treat to get rebound. You know, like where you're sowing the seed, you're shooting the first shot in the war of the second instruction. So
it's lovely. It's a lovely idea because, you know, look, these people might not sell that house with you, but they will remember you. I've actually won instructions off that method, not that time. When they came to sell their next house, they remembered me more than the other agent because I've been super polite. But yeah,
it's not hard. Of all the prop tech in the world and all the fancy training and all that, a simple, you know what, couldn't help you this time, but good luck. Thanks for giving us the opportunity.
I think it's so important, and I think actually, guys, this is probably a sort of a well-being tip as well, because it's good for your own mental health to deal with defeat graciously and to feel like you're doing something about it. So you can choose to be bitter that you lost the valuation, grumble about it, and walk away. All you're going to do is give yourself heartache and take minutes off your life.
And acid reflux.
And oh, don't even get me started, mate. Genetically wired for that stuff. But if you then actually sit down, write a thank you card, thank them for the opportunity, make sure that they get it, you've done something, you've reacted positively. So it's important.
You've been the bigger person, David. You've been the bigger person.
I've always been a big person.
Yeah, right. Number 5. And this is something I love our prop tech, the likes of Home Search, Spectre, and those wonderful people, to tell us why not. Double-sided prospecting letters. Why do we always have to send out a prospecting letter, one side of paper? That's like me. I'll give you an example. That's like me booking a radio advert for a minute and going, you know what, I'm not going to use the other 30 seconds.
All right. I'm going to just play with you on this. I'll bite. I get it. Now, when you receive an envelope, you open it, take out the thing, you naturally sort of unfold it. And let me ask you a quite plain devil's advocate.
Yeah.
Whatever you put on side B of the album is never going to be, they're not going to be the singles that you release. Side A is all the singles, right? Side B is for all the fanatics. And it takes a fanatic to actually go to the trouble of turning it over and listening to it. So what I'm saying to you is side B on a letter always going to be kind of...
I don't think so. I think you could really design it in a way, and as long as it's on good paper as well, where somebody will go like this and go, okay, right, I've got a letter. Prospecting letter, actually, I had to do a critique on. Look, how boring is that? That's an actual prospecting letter I've just printed off.
Yeah.
10 things we love about... Where do you live, David? Whitegates.
Prestwich. I just made up Whitegates, but yeah.
10 things we love about Prestwich. It's just just a little bit of interest, just to keep them on your page, literally a little bit longer. You know, it's the reason why Facebook tried to make us spend so much time on this platform, because the longer the more we're buying it. Shoot.
I've got an idea. You could even put your local area promise on the back.
Winner, chicken dinner.
Thank you very much. Hit me with number 6.
Number 6 is... What's number 6? My handwriting's appalling. It's really bad. So, football team come. Hello, mister. Is there any sponsorship you can put our way? And you go, well, yeah, I want to sponsor a football team, a cricket team, a netball team. Yeah, we'll sponsor your kit. Don't sponsor the kit. or if you do sponsor the kit, make sure your name also goes on the back of the training kit. The training top is the most important bit of sponsorship real estate when it comes to local youth football teams and sports teams. I see my Charlotte all the time. She plays once a week in a kit that's sponsored by Rent-A-Kill.
Right, okay.
Rent-A-Kill, yeah, little rats. Her training top hasn't got a sponsor on. And I said to her coach, I said, I bet you I could get you 500 quid for somebody to whack their name on the back of those. No problem at all.
Yeah.
Hey, presto.
It's a great idea. I think if you're an agent and you haven't yet sat down with your local PTA at a school for school football teams or for sports equipment, for whatever, there is a ton of, I suppose, branding opportunities out there, and it helps schools. So number one, yes, okay, you're helping yourself, you're helping your business, and you're getting brand awareness out there. But just take your selfish hat off for a second. You're also helping school. You're helping kids access sport. It's a great message.
It feels good to do stuff like that.
It does feel good, and because those mums and dads are constantly taking that piece of kit out, washing it, hanging it up, drying it. Well, it's constant awareness. It's great.
The thing as well with the training tops is they wear the training tops to and from. I've noticed there's a team around here that train on a Saturday, and all I see is these little blue tops running around the town an hour before and an hour after training, because they've got about 100 kids go there. And I just look at the back all the time and think, man, somebody's missing a big trick there. They're not the one that we get involved with, but yeah, somebody's missing the trick. Do you want the number 7?
Hit me with number 7. Let's hammer it home for the weekend.
We should just do this, right? Like this. Every week we have our little chat and our little jokes, and then we do 7 ideas that we've done the week. Should we do that? It's just easier, is it?
Don't we normally do that anyway?
Not daily ideas.
Are you telling me that you find this podcast difficult? Because I think this is a very nice, easy. We've got a repertoire. We've got, a
rapport.
I thought we had a rapport.
We have rapport. Do you remember there used to be an aftershave called Rapport? Just putting it out there. They did. Google it. I can remember it. I had it. I thought it was so cool. But bear in mind, I was from a very poor family. Anyway, daily idea number 7. I'm going to take you for a trip down memory lane, David.
Let's go.
People love nostalgia, yeah? And for an estate agent, 3 things you can do to evoke that sense of nostalgia. That sense of when life was a lot better, when global warming wasn't going to kill off future generations, when we could go to Europe without a queuing system because we were so silly.
The 90s, they were great times, weren't they?
Yes. So, but here, in all seriousness, so nostalgia can work like this. A picture of your office back in the day. So, like if you've been there for 20 years, people will be interested. If you've got a shot of the outside of the office, oh, look how far we've come. Out, old one, new one, juxtaposition, yeah? I work working in local papers. One of the most popular parts of any local paper I worked for, and they all had them, was sort of a trip into yesteryear, a trip down memory lane, and photos of old places in the town. Because people like to go, oh, do you remember that? Do you remember that shop?
They do love that, and it will get shared on every local community group because people like. I do. I find myself drawn to these pictures of the high street, or that used to be a co-op, and that used to be Marks and Spencer. It is interesting. It's definitely interesting,
and it's good for the agency because they get that shares. There's a reason why you're doing it. Is for that shares and for that attention. Another one is, I can remember one of our members, picture of him. I think he was must be about 40 now, but he was like a boy, 18, like 17, 18, on a phone. Remember when the phones were really big? Not the mobile phones, but the phone phones, landlines, I think they're called.
Yeah. They're getting rid of landlines. I think next year, gone. Good. We'll all be digital.
No one needs them. We can have digital. It's fine. But it was a picture of him when he was 16 on the phone, and people loved it. Oh, but that also says I know what I'm doing. I've been doing something for 20 years or however many years. So he's subtly showing, I've been doing this a long time. In a nice, fun way. He's not saying we're the most experienced agents in town. He's saying, oh, here's a picture. I've just come across this picture of me when I started at Blogs & Co.
Or if you're disciplined, you could do time-lapse photography. So you take a photo every week and you can show how your hair just gently sort of recedes backwards over the years as the stress builds of being a local estate agent. Look at that.
Become a content writer. You don't have to worry, baby.
Honestly, you lifted that hat, and I thought, oh, he's wearing one of those Russian hats underneath it. You know.
Oh my God! My cousin said that exactly to me once about a Cossack hat. He said, "You got a hat like one of those Russian guards." Hey, like that's right.
Jerry, thank you very much for sharing with us those 7 tips. I think they're all useful. What do you mean? You said 7. I've had 7.
One more about nostalgia, which is even better. Right.
Go on.
People love this because they go, "Oh, blimey! Oh, ain't things got expensive? Oh, didn't we buy it at a cheap time?" Find your property listings. You know your adverts. You must.
Oh yes.
You know what I mean, David? You know what I mean, baby? That's it.
Yeah, those are also fascinating because people are going to sort of say, "Oh, look, they were advertising that house for 50p 25 years ago, and it's now 500,000." So you can even go into a whole, if you want to, write a blog post about inflation and about, you know, the differences in buying houses today and 50 years ago. It's all good stuff there. There's a ton of things that you can be doing. It's all free. We've given it you free of charge.
Yeah, out of love.
Pure love. And do you know why we give it to you? Because 99% of you aren't watching this. The other 1% of you, only half of you are ever going to do anything with it. But if you do, it will have value and bring you success, I can guarantee you. Mr. Jerry Lyons, before I let you go, because I'm mindful that your time, you know, you're an old man. Every minute counts now. How old are you? Because there was a debate online this morning. You're 50. You're looking good for 50. I'd take that. That's not bad at all. What have you got planned this weekend, and what's your
big weekend? Big weekend. I've got Simon Well, Asad Riaz joining me on the Brighton table.
Wow.
Brighton, Liverpool. Nice little bit of hospitality, and Charlotte being a massive.
Two titans of the industry there.
I've thought of my post about this. One heavyweight of the estate agency industry, and one person in very good condition.
I like Asad because he is tremendously humble, and I think there's a really good example. You know, we were talking earlier about agencies having one person that is a sort of a front man or a front woman, and then you've got, and that's, you know, location. That's the perfect sort of example of it. You've got Vicky, who I think most of the customers will know, and Asad is so much a part of that business. But from a public point of view, you blink and you'll miss him because you don't really see him. He's not the natural front man.
A great example of that was in their team's Christmas photo. You know, like some bosses like to sit right at the centre. Look at me.
In the middle.
I've got a friend who's got a magazine company, and his Christmas cards. I said to him, "Why don't you just get him to carry you? It's so obvious that you're the boss, you big-headed fool." But Asad is just in the background. In the background, you know, like just you would never guess the seniority there.
Well, I want you to enjoy that weekend. If you could give agents one tip, one maxim they could live their life by this weekend, one bit of inspiration to take them into the next week, what is it, Mr. Lyons?
Live in the moment.
Live in the moment. Wow. So powerful. You're going to have to prepare better next week, aren't you? Right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Wishing you all a wonderful weekend. I will leave you in the words of Jim Lyons. What was it that you said? Check yourself before you wreck yourself. Live in the moment.
Live in the moment.
Have a great time, and we'll see you again next week.
Arrivederci, buon signore.
Buenos dias, Maria.